In true spooky season spirit, Reading were able to extend Halloween by another day as they served up a harrowing loss to Carlisle in extra time to hand new boss Leam Richardson a big fat L on his dugout debut. Joining me tonight, as always, or today, is Ross.
Very good.
Ross, I'm fed up.
Yeah, I can tell you're fed up. I can definitely tell. But as always, we are on YouTube as we have been this season, and the YouTube listeners or watchers, viewers right now will be able to see that you've got a lovely new Reading shirt on. So is that not perking you up? Did you get that at the open day?
No, I didn't go to the open day. I bought it before the game against Carlisle, and I wish I bloody hadn't, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Wow.
Pathetic. So
It
nice
look,
shirt. I really like it. It's like it's the warm up with
it
it's got like a
is.
crown on it.
Do you know what's
Crown's good.
funny though? The problem with warm-ups is that like I often like the picture that forms in my head of like how they look is based on the first person I see wearing them. I really like the green the crazy lime green one from last year. I
Yeah, I
remember
didn't
seeing
like that.
Jaden. See, I liked that, but I remember seeing Jaden Wareham wearing it and making it look like the Michelin Man shirt. And I think that's what I'm perceiving myself as looking like when I put it on. But that one that you're wearing there, I'll just put this on you and see how you feel about it. Mostly makes me think of Michael Stickland. I've got to be honest.
This one.
Yeah, I've seen a few pictures of him in that shirt.
Okay.
So stickers, that's the one for me related to the it's sort of the blue, I'd call it almost Christmas wrapping train.
Yeah, really, I love royal blue. Royal blue is one of my favourite colours.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Well, good thing you support a team that plays in royal blue then, really, isn't it?
exactly right.
Yeah, couldn't have picked
They,
better.
they, they weren't playing in royal blue on Saturday. I tell you that much. They were playing in crap blue.
Red, red, white, and shite.
Yeah, right, yeah, exactly. Don't, because we get another email about people going, "This is a family show,
Don't worry, I'll cut that
PG
one out.
rated."
Yeah, yeah.
Um, right, we're on episode. I had to check. We're on episode 438. Ross is going to do his best to shine a light into the darkness.
I'm
Um,
positive today. I'll share that with you as we go through the loss
yeah,
for the third time in 6 years in the FA
I'm
Cup
just
to a
drained from it.
League
Like
team.
someone said, right, that it's the worst result they can remember in recent memory, and it is.
Is it?
It
All
is.
right.
It is. Whichever way you spin it, it is.
Difficult.
Anyway,
Time to lit. All right, we got to
look,
litigate
we'll
this.
do
Let's
this.
get through the important bits and then we'll get
Yeah,
there.
and
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
going to talk about Liam Richardson as well because we've not talked. The last one we did, Noel Hunt had been removed.
yeah. Yep.
Um,
And
so
deserved his
we're
own
going to
episode focusing on that.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Big thanks to ZT Said Films who sponsor this pod and every other pod that we do, and the Amazons as well. Amazons are are on their national tour
yes.
for Halloween show. They all dressed up as characters from Lord of the Rings, and I thought that was excellent,
It
actually.
was good. It was good. They've released a sort of set of studio versions of some of their most recent tracks too, which is good. It's worth listening to. And then also just back to ZCZ Films quickly. Waldy's been active on Blue Sky quite a lot recently, so
Yeah,
do
he's
go
been
check
active
out.
everywhere.
He's
Everyone's
everywhere.
getting a piece.
Yeah, everyone's getting a piece of Waldy, but Waldy and Bendy, that's his podcast. So do go check that out. He thinks that Liam Richardson looks just like Craig Bellamy. How do you feel about that, being a
I
Craig
mean, I
Bellamy?
no.
No. Here's my other one for you. I said back to him, I think James Beattie looks more like Craig Bellamy. Either of them? Or are these
Well,
just
look, we
Caucasian
got
brunette men?
we got to talk about James Beattie as well. We got to talk about all these things.
Lots of things to get to.
So we'll talk about Carlisle Fest in the recap, which is coming up right now. Right. For those of you that saw my post-match video, where I was wearing a very fetching horse fleece, I have to
Oh,
say.
a horse fleece. Very nice
Yeah.
too. Did
Um,
any local youths come up and ask you if they could be in the video this time?
no, they didn't.
Okay.
That was only for clearly the under 18s game.
Okay. If you do see Ben outside doing his video, make sure you walk back
Yeah.
in.
Well, I
But
normally do it in a car. Obviously, the thing is, the traffic is so bad these days that if I do it at the final, after the final whistle,
mm,
I'd never get home. I'd never get
yeah,
home.
yeah.
I feel like the crowd's got less, but the traffic's got worse. I don't really understand that. But
There's a
anyway,
lot more
whatever.
going on in that part of town. I always think
Um,
I go back. Anyway,
what was I saying about my post-match video? I can't remember.
Well, you were
Um,
making your post-match video, and I imagine it was quite grumpy at the time
yeah,
because
I
you
was I
you
was
and I
livid,
have
honestly. So I left on 90th minute, right?
yeah.
And the main reason I left is because I told my son explicitly to wear tracksuit bottoms or anything other than not shorts because I knew it'd be cold.
Yeah.
And he just chose to ignore that and wore shorts. So by the time the 89th minute rolled around, he was literally like just shivering and it was pouring down with rain. And I thought, we're done. 2
Yeah.
nil, we're finished, right? We don't, we well played,
I
brilliant. Off
said
we
that
go, second
to
round.
my wife as well, by the way, that when the heavens opened after we scored our second one, I was like, oh, it's just a good day for Reading. Like just as we get our bigger lead, the heavens conspire against
Yeah.
our opponents.
And what transpired after that was, and I'm going to use this word, a cataclysmic chain of events that saw us lose 3-2 in extra time.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Where do you want me to
let's
start with this? Because I think that
well, look,
the key thing is that you and I have had a very different viewing experience. So I just want
yeah.
to talk about that briefly before we talk about the
How
game.
did you how did you watch it? Was it
So
on a
that's the
replay?
thing. Yeah, I ended up watching it on Royals TV
As a
yesterday.
replay,
Yeah, as a
right?
replay.
Okay.
So I hadn't seen it until yesterday. So for me, the way I took it in, and obviously when you're rewatching a game, you do tend to focus a little bit more on the first half because that's when the players have a bit more energy and they're more likely to be doing what it is they've been sent out to do. But also because it's the first half that you watch, so you're a bit more taking things in at that
Before
point.
before you give us your tactical rundown of Liam Richardson and his brand new Royals,
Mm.
can I just say that I love the FA Cup? I absolutely adore it. It holds,
I
well,
know.
just as a football fan, many happy memories for me. Like FA Cup final day was the biggest thing. And I sound like I'm like 80. I'm not. But even growing up in the 90s, the FA Cup final was a massive, massive event. You'd
Yeah.
start watching TV from like, you know, 10 in the morning or whatever. BBC had it all covered. It was unreal, absolutely
Yeah.
unreal.
Yeah.
What I don't understand is for a competition that's like the oldest cup competition in the world, why, people like you, and I mean, people overseas, not people like you, as in people like you, can't watch it.
Yeah.
I just think it's insanity. I really do.
It's a shame they had selected games, so there were like other non-league versus league team games I could watch, but this one just wasn't on the list.
Wasn't on there.
And I thought you would have thought you could make something of it
Yeah.
in terms of the marketing with Mark Hughes and all that kind of stuff. But hey, this is the third time as well, by the way, that we've lost
It's a
in the FA
disgrace.
Cup to
It's a
non-league
disgrace.
opponents in 5 seasons. It was so January 2022, so 21, 22. So what are we now? 25, 26. So yeah, 5 seasons and we've lost three. We've fallen out of the FA Cup in three of those, two non-league teams.
Yeah.
Harbour Town took us pretty close as
Yeah, we
well.
nearly blew it last year as well.
Last year as well. So, I mean, we have good form for this. And I just want to say before we get carried away with any of this, Stevenage also went out of the cup on Saturday to a non-league team. So let's just, be calm about what's happening. No, no, wait, sorry, I lied to you. They're a League Two team that they went out to. So anyway, yeah, it wasn't obviously the result that you want. And the third goal in this sort of in this game was the one that kind of gave me more heebie-jeebies than anything about what was going on before like all the goals from Carlisle started happening because that was the only one of those three goals, in my opinion, that came about as a result of the way that Reading were trying to play in this game. So look, Reading had only, or Liam Richardson, the new coach, who obviously we'll get around to talking about, but he'd only had 2 training sessions. He didn't have all of his coaches in. Obviously, he's hired another coach since this time, before this game. So when I went back and watched the first half yesterday, I was really quite surprised by just how different it was after 2 training sessions. There's a
Can I know we're going to talk about him. Sorry to interrupt you because normally the other way around. But what I would say is after the game, I thought Liam spoke really, really well because I was ready to set fire to something. Like literally, I was ready to like go. I don't know what I was prepared to do. And
yeah.
football doesn't, being a Reading fan, I've kind of become immune to it. But honestly, Saturday I was absolutely raging. But I thought he spoke really well in the fact that he could have gone, right, everyone's under scrutiny. Here's a massive bus, all get under it. Like
Mhm.
he was, I just felt like he was pretty chill and pretty calm. And I thought, fair play, actually. Like, because
Yeah.
you could have lost the dressing room, but won every single fan over straight away. But he just almost like straight battered it. I thought he was really, really good post match. A lot better than I would have been.
I think
Anyway, carry on, Ross.
Well, no, but I think really like what came through in that press conference or the post-match conference is that this guy is an actual experienced manager. He's had a couple of dressing rooms now. And I think that this loss actually, especially after a performance that was better going forward than much of what we've seen this season, I think it's actually not the worst thing ever to be out of the cup. So have fewer games coming down the pipe, a bit more time on the training ground to work on, whatever it is that he wants to work on, and we'll talk about that again. But he now also has the remit to go and throw the hairdryer at them if he wants to. What he says in the press this week is going to be pretty different from what is actually happening on the training ground. And one of the themes that came up both in, his post-match conference and within Couhig's interview this week was the fitness of the squad, both in terms of whether they're ready to actually play because of injury, but also in terms of how fit are they throughout the entire match. And I thought that in this particular game, Reading, when they were trying to kind of do the things that Liam was clearly trying to push into the team, were having some success, and some of the chances and things like that came from those new ways of creating things. Ironic that the first goal of the Leam Richardson era just came from a bit of a scramble in the box, and then Lewis Wing smashes one in. But that is always going to be there for Reading managers if you can put them into the right positions, obviously. So that's helpful. So look, let's talk a little bit about what Richardson was trying to do here. And there are some visuals. I think Sims put them now on the Twitter for the Tilehurst end, and they're on my Blue Sky as well. Um,
They were your visuals though.
Correct, but I
Yeah.
mean, it was literally me at 10 o'clock at night scribbling lines onto some screenshots and things.
It's
Um,
it's interesting because he's passed them off as his own work.
yeah,
But it's not
well,
for me to comment on, actually. Not for me to
yeah,
comment on.
right. Yeah, no, fair. But good to highlight though. Worth highlighting. So yeah, let me pull out my book because there was so much to write about during this. I've got a big page of notes that YouTube viewers can see. Oh, you've got a big page of notes too. Okay, good. So
We've all got
basic,
notes, mate. Look,
yeah, wow. Is that your intro?
it was, and now scribble all over it.
Nice. Okay, good, good. Look, so what do you want to look out for if you're at the game next week? I think one of some of the things that the players you want to watch are Jacob and Doyle, who are gonna, if you watch them, kind of show you what formation and what shape the team is moving into. They will have lined up, or the way that it looked like a lineup on FotMob or SofaScore or whatever it was. Would have put it down as a 4-2-3-1. But if you're watching the game, you will of course know that you saw a lot of different shapes that were not that 4-2-3-1. That 4-2-3-1 was the shape that they used when they were defending in their own half, where Kamari Doyle would jump in and help out in the midfield, provide an extra man. But when the ball was being moved around at the back for Carlisle, Kamari Doyle would jump forward, and then the two wingers, was Lane and Chirwa, would kind of move forward. So we'd have almost like a 4-2-4, 4-4-2 sort of press once it went into that final third. When we were in build up, what we kind of saw was this 3-2 build up. So Jacob in the back four basically left the build up entirely and just went
I
off
thought
off
you were going
into
to
the
say he
front
left
line.
the building.
He basically did. At times, when I was like watching this back, I was literally like, "Where is Jacob?" And because he looks so much like Paddy Lane at a quick glance, and they play on the same side of the field, sometimes it is like a quick like, "Who is that?" Oh, it's Paddy. Okay, cool. Anyway, yeah. So Jacob basically vacated the build up and went all the way up high, and he held the left width in the top line, which left Dorset, Sticklin, and Yiadom in the back three, with Wing and Savage in this game really, really close together. And regardless of whether it's like 4-2-3-1 or 4-4-2, that's one of the things that you're going to see, or it looks like you're going to see a lot, is Wing and Savage very close together in this particular formation just to kind of help with that, creating an overload in the middle. They moved into once they moved into the middle, they're in this sort of like three box three. So what that means is it's almost like a 3-4-3, but vertically, you've got like two, it's almost like having two attacking midfielders and two defensive midfielders, if that makes sense. So it creates like a square in the
Yeah,
middle of
yeah,
the pitch. Again, there's a visual on Blue Sky, which might make it a little bit easier to see. But what's really interesting about this is that it's moving Paddy Lane into a half space, much more centrally in the pitch, and not having him play out as a winger. And we've talked this season about, things that could maybe make Paddy Lane play a little bit more to his strengths. And I think this is a manager immediately seeing what he can do, and trying to change that around. So he would often come into the midfield and help out with that. But then once we got to that final third, very much Kamari Doyle moving into the front two, and basically helping to occupy the center backs. And then we're trying to create this sort of space in between the center backs and the full backs for our wingers, which was in this game Jacob and Chirwa, to get into and then create chances. We had a goal disallowed for a questionable handball from Kamari Doyle in
I
the
think it
first,
was.
what, like 5-10 minutes,
Yeah,
which came about as a
I
result of this.
I felt like it was handball.
Think it was handball. Okay. But in any case, a marginal one and one that came from this kind of idea to try and work the ball into the half space. And then the Marco Mani goal as well, came from both this
Good
attempt
goal, that.
to
Good
really
goal.
good goal. And what you can see there is two strikers going in and occupying the center back. So the guy who's behind Marco Mani can't move forward onto him because Kelvin's right behind him. So if he moves forward, now Kelvin's sitting there in all of that space, basically. So basically, all of this to say, within two training sessions, we could see the team moving into a lot of different shapes. I
Yeah.
think that I'll be able to make this a bit more coherent in the weeks going forward and, focus on individual things. But there's a lot going on right
Yeah, look, I thought there was a lot more energy. I think certainly in the first 20, 25 minutes. I know it was difficult to tell. I know obviously it sounds a bit stupid because they ended up winning the game, but Carlisle were a little bit shell shocked. I think when they started the game, and there was a lot more. I thought Lane had probably one of his better games that he's had. I thought Doyle was
Yep.
was good. I thought Kelvin at times was out of position, and I think that is probably a lack of awareness of playing that role. He's obviously been out injured and not been a bit of a stop-start season for him. But there was a lot more players I felt were kind of deliberately trying to crash the box a little bit and actually get involved. I'm still not sure on Chiro. I'm really, really not sold on him at all. And what I'd like to see is a little bit more width in the team with whoever's playing winger, just trying to take their men on. I still think maybe two up top is coming. I feel like
I
when
think
we've
it's
got,
basically in this game. I mean, if you look,
yeah,
like Mari Doyle is basically playing
push right up.
as a
Yeah,
striker, yeah, and I mean that's what he did for Crawley last year. It's like just because you list someone as the striker just because they're playing up top does not mean that they have to play like Kiefer Moore. Like it does mean that they can
yeah.
play, in a much more cultured way. Obviously, Dennis Bergkamp was what you named as a striker, but
Wow, what a player! What a
Kamari
player!
Doyle, by the way, talking about what a player, I'm getting quite excited by Kamari Doyle. I think that
He's
there's
got
I think
potential.
yeah, and I think that Liam, this particular setup that was being demonstrated in this game, if we continue working with it, Kamari Doyle could be one of the biggest winners from this. I think that Manny Jacob also could be one of the biggest winners from this. But quickly back to Doyle, the Marco goal comes from, finding Doyle in this sort of like area in between the lines. And then he's able to turn around and cross the ball into this middle of the box that has two players right there and Lane pretty nearby as well, by the way,
Mm.
kind of like waiting to clean up as well. So just immediately you can see much more structure to it. I felt bad that Jacob conceded or made the mistake that kind of ended up leading to the ball going the other way for the winning goal for Carlisle. But I also want to flag that this is kind of it was an example of what the issue with this particular structure can be. So at that particular time, we kind of had this 3-2-5. Sometimes it's a 3-2-2-3, 3-2-4-1. Like it's a top five that can move around very fluidly, especially Kamari Doyle, who was just roaming everywhere, especially in the first half in this game. But that leaves you a rest defense of your three, two center backs and one of your fullbacks, and then your midfielders in front of them. It's very narrow. And so if, Carlisle, as they did at this time, can capitalize on a mistake by quickly getting the ball out wide and then back in,
Mm.
into the final third, that can really be a problem for this particular kind of rest defense. If you have an older player like Wing who is having to turn and run the opposite direction, for example. And this final goal, it started from Jacob trying to step through a player that he probably shouldn't have tried to step through. But then as it came back towards Reading, Carlisle went around the rest defense and they were suddenly in 4v3, with a chance to shoot. So that is one of the issues to look out for. And that will be one of the things that Liam's success as a manager will be about, coaching that out of his team is can he make sure that they understand when not to take the risk and when to take the risk. But taking one of your left backs and putting him all the way up or take one of your fullbacks and putting him all the way up in the forward line in your first game in charge as Reading manager. I mean, we've been saying we want the attack sorted out. We want more risks taken. That's taking a risk right there in the first game. So I thought that was encouraging to see. And I thought that it was a shame that Jacob made that mistake that led to the final goal, because I actually thought that he had done a pretty commendable job in the game before that. Did you think Jacob was all right in this one?
Fits and starts. I think it becomes a little bit boring. I mean, we've had a history of people getting on fullbacks backs. Can't think of any other phrase to use. Chris Gunter's a classic example of that. We've had other fullbacks over the years, like even Yeardom to a point who I thought was actually all
Mills
right on
back in the day.
Saturday.
Yeah.
Well, Mills centre back, but like there's always been this history, and Jacob falls into that. I mean, the point I was going on to make after you'd finished that was I still maintain that these players are good. I still maintain that there is a good team there.
Hmm.
He didn't have Burns, didn't have O'Connor, didn't have Marriott, didn't have Pereira. There's other players that are out as well at the moment in terms of not being involved. And I still maintain that this is a good group of players. But I think, for the first time on Saturday, I was like, that's not okay. To be 2-0 up in the 90th minute at home and then end up losing 3-2. It's just it's a lack of concentration. It's a soft underbelly. It goes back to kind of standards that people have talked about all the way through this week, both people from the club, outsiders, fans on social media and in the stands as well. So I think, very, very frustrating. I wouldn't say that the performance was horrific, and maybe I was a little bit over dramatic in the aftermath of the game, which is going to happen because I just paid £17 to watch it.
Yeah. Bit
Not that
much.
I'm bitter or anything, but when you look at the base of the team that Liam's got to work with, I still maintain these are good players.
Yeah. Yeah.
Noel just wasn't able to get a tune out of them in
Mhm.
how he wanted to do it.
Well, I think soft underbelly like you just said, is a really great way of putting it
It's a
because for
mentality
me,
thing.
well, the primary
100%.
reason I haven't spoken about the first two goals is because I think both of them come from individual mistakes, and I don't really want to sit here and dig out players.
Yeah,
But
exactly right.
the ball goes through the wall for the free kick for the first Carlisle goal, and you can decide who you think is responsible for that by watching the replay. I'm not going to throw a player on the bus. The Stevens, the equalizer obviously goes under Stevens, and he's been problematic, especially getting down and presenting like a solid block low in the last few weeks. He's kind of shown, why he was available to a certain degree. But there were also a mistake before that whereby Stickland tries to go to get the ball and doesn't manage to get the ball, and then Reading are rushing back towards their own net. And really, those two times when Carlisle got it around us that one time, and then we made this mistake in the build up for the equalizer. I don't think Carlisle had that many chances. Other than that many good chances, certainly.
I think that's a good point to not target individuals negatively. Like we went on a bit of a thing about Omani a couple of weeks ago, and since then he scored a couple of goals, and it doesn't mean everything's all right in the garden now. But I don't think it works to get on players' backs. I mean, I was asked, someone put a comment under the video about, okay, so who do you think won't play for the club again? And I have my opinions on that. I think that Richardson will look at it and try and phase some of those players out, but he can only do that when he's got a lot of these players back ready to go. Williams. I mean, Williams wasn't invited. Like, it's a problem when you're missing those quality of or that type of player. Just to be sensible and just see it out. And I think, we're
Can
going to talk
can
about
I interject just real quick? Because I think it is, but I also think to a certain degree, bringing in new players or players that are just on the periphery of the team can sometimes be a good way to get your structure into a team quickly. Like I feel like when Sellers was making changes, doing things like bringing Craig and Bindon and stuff like that in, players that would not have expected to start at the start of the season, was a way in which he was able to quickly get his message through to the players. But I agree. Like, I think Liam, I'm very interested to see how Liam approaches Lewis Wing in the next 3 to 6 months, because I think
yeah.
that's a really interesting. I think that's a really interesting question for
Yeah.
Reading at the moment, and I don't particularly know what the answer is. I kind of go back and forth on it.
No,
Yeah,
well, we've look, without us being all secret squirrel, like we have talked about this privately, and I think from my point of view, I'll probably reserve judgment on how that moves forward and have a look at the next couple of games and see what the performance level's like and stuff. I yeah, I don't know is the honest answer. I'm hoping that a fresh pair of eyes will come in and be kind of open to anything
yeah,
and kind of try some things. And I think there is a moldable team there. They just haven't had the direction from Noel Hunt, who we've talked about time and again in terms of the coaching quality and the level,
yeah,
and probably the energy and the not enthusiasm, but the keep going back to it, but the word standards keeps cropping up all the time, and it just feels very stale. And I think there was a kind of a 20-25 minute period where it felt a little bit more exciting and a little bit more kind of actually we've got the drive here and we've got the quality to be able to really attack.
yeah.
But lapses of concentration and a collective responsibility meant that we were knocked out of the FA Cup the first round again. So that's nice. That's nice.
Yeah.
We can concentrate on the league now, which is great.
Exactly.
Let's talk a little bit about Liam because obviously he came in after episode 437, and this is episode 438, just in case you lost track. He signed a deal until 2027, which seems reasonably sensible given the way that football economics and, to be blunt, fickleness works. Successful with
Soccernomics.
exactly, yeah. Successful with Wigan, won the
Yep.
title in League One with them. Not so successful with Rotherham, but I think looking at some of the comments online from Rotherham fans and just kind of doing a little bit of research, I think a lot of people can agree that Rotherham were in a very, very difficult situation at that point, and he was possibly the right manager at the wrong time. But winning the league with Wigan is obviously a great calling card to
Yeah.
begin with when you've got a club that is literally languishing in League One and has been for 2 or 3 seasons now.
Mhm.
What how do you feel about that appointment first, I guess?
I'm quite. I think that like I'm certainly not unhappy with it. I think that's the first thing to say. Obviously, the managers that we were talking about last week, he wasn't on that list, so completely slipped us and slipped. He was below the top five for the bookies picks too. But Couhig in his latest interview does make it sound as though he's been high up on the list for a while. Look, I think if you're looking for a manager and you're basing it in terms of results in the league that you are in right now, then there aren't that many other better managers you could pick. I don't think. And he certainly has also kind of played an interesting style before that could translate well with this squad. He's been quite high pressing. He's used some formations like a 4-2-3-1 that are not a million miles away from things that have already been tried this year. But again, like we said, within the first game already, we saw quite a few different shapes and things, and it does appear that he's a bit more secure in his estimations of what's going on with the team, and the way in which he communicates. And I think that strongly bringing in, the number of coaches that he has over the last few days and within his first week shows that he's clearly got a way in which he wants to play, and he's going out to go and get the guys who can help him, kind of install that. So that's good to see. And again, I think the thing that was most encouraging for me is, but I think that the Wigan scenario in which they, obviously had trouble with ownership and then came into new ownership and new money and new expectations and all those things, and then he was able to win the league. And as I remember that year, Wigan were doing quite well most of the year, but then won it with a sort of not surge at the end of the season, but they got into good form towards the end and pipped. I can't quite remember who it was that season with them. But in any case, I think basically the situation that he had with Wigan, where he helped them stay up and then turn around and got them, promoted as champions the next year, is about as similar to Reading's current scenario as you could find in terms of experience from a coach. So from that perspective, I was quite, I was quite happy with it. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I mean, look, he's been out of the game for what, 18 months?
Hmm.
Um, I think that is probably a good thing at times. He had an overall win percentage of 41.88 at Wigan in his main stint, 117 games, won 49, lost 38, and then went to Rotherham. And it kind of all unraveled pretty quickly, really. He was out of the game for about a year after he
I,
left Wigan.
I
And
thought I'd
then,
just check real quick. I was trying to think. Sorry, Ben. I'm trying to think of managers who have also taken a break, who were successful. The biggest one I could think of quickly was Eddie Howe,
yeah,
who was out of football for a month. He was out of football for a month. He was out of football for almost a year and a half in between Bournemouth and Newcastle. So just because a manager's out of football obviously doesn't mean that they're not
yeah.
developing, I suppose.
And then he joined Rotherham mid-December 23, 24 games. He won two of those. Um, win percentage of 8.33, lost 18. I mean that kind of
Tactically,
shows
that's
all the
bad. Just if you wanted a
yeah,
tactical
that's bad.
analysis of that,
That is
that's
bad.
bad. Yeah.
But there were clearly issues around the club at that time. They
Yeah.
were on a downward spiral anyway. Didn't last very long there at all. So what we're talking, 4 months.
Yeah.
Overall win percentage then in his career was 34.83%. He's played 178 games or managed 178 games as a manager, both caretaker and permanent, and won 65 of those, losing 71, the bulk of which came in that horrendous stint at Rotherham for the 4 months. As we said previously, so look, it leads us on to how this came about, and I think I said it at the time, but clearly, the hierarchy at the club knew who they wanted from the off.
Yeah.
This was obviously then confirmed yesterday when Rob Couhig did his latest interview, but there wasn't any messing around, and I think we said at the time it was a good opportunity to make that change. Things weren't getting better. The Doncaster game was very, very poor in terms of a performance and energy level. Um,
And I think that you're right that the speed of the appointment.
and there wasn't a lot of rumors. They just went bang. This is what we want to do. Liam was obviously very pleased to join. Brings with him James Beattie, which has sort of blown my mind a bit.
That is an odd one. I used to watch him back in the day with my dad, at St.
Yeah,
Mary's every now and again. So that was quite funny.
Danny Schofield and Rob Kelly most recently added to the backroom staff. So they're making moves in terms of bringing coaches in, and if budget allows, I'm always keen on having individual departments being coached by, a little bit like rugby, where you have those, the back coach, the forward coach, and
You
kicking
should
coach, everything else.
see an American
NFL
football
teams, same
practice.
thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say you should see them at high school level. It's insane. Like if I think about like how much trouble I have with like 12 kids doing soccer, and then I look at like American football practice and it's like 50 kids with like different coaching groups and things like that. It's
Yeah.
madness. It's crazy.
So, I'm pleased that they've looked at the back row. I mean, Ledgerwood is still around. Um, Goalkeeping coach stays the same as far as we're aware as well. I think it's Rob Shea who's the goalkeeping
Yeah,
coach at
yeah.
the moment. So, there's a number of people there that are around, and I think we need to stabilize the club now, and we need to get these players moving forward, and having these extra coaches in, because it was extra, because it was Noel Hunt, Scott Marshall, who's also left the club, and Ledgerwood, and it didn't work. It was very, very difficult to see improvements moving forward. It's interesting they've kept Ledgerwood around, but it was
I
nice
think
to
with
see
his
him walk
history with
along.
the academy too,
Yeah,
and with a lot of the players who have come up directly through the academy, like a Brafer and Kelvin and stuff like
yeah,
that.
and he's a great guy as well, really nice guy. So it makes sense to have some consistency there.
Hmm.
Um, Rob's interview then, which leads us nicely on to the final part of the recap. That was released yesterday. 18 minutes of him talking to Phil Catchpole at the training ground in the media suite they've got there. Some interesting points, very candid.
They've got a fun relationship, Phil and Rob,
They
which makes
have,
for some very interesting interviews. Like you can tell they've been working together for a long time, and I can understand if fans might think that that means that like some of what's coming out is, oh, it's state-run media, it's and all this kind of stuff.
North Korean
Yeah, it's
TV.
North
Someone,
Korean
and I
TV
was like,
or whatever it is.
how many times have you sat and watched North Korean TV? You
North Korean
donut.
TV's got like really exciting kimonos and like swans
Yeah,
and things. So
exactly.
don't knock it until you've watched it, is all I'm saying.
Stupid.
But
Um,
like Phil will ask Rob questions that are like very direct and feel like they've come directly from Twitter questions, which I find quite funny. And I think that, obviously Rob is telling him it's okay for him to do that, but like
yeah,
you only build up that level of trust from like a lot of years of working together. So I
and
just
look,
find their relationship quite funny.
Phil's a good guy. Phil is a really really good guy. He's very very good at his job, and I can kind of see where the criticism comes in terms of being too close to the fire in terms of their relationship. But actually, I think it's a positive thing. If it was me and you'd sit down, you'd ask me anything you wanted, I'd answer it, vice versa. And I think that's really really important. We've had blackout from an owner who's not interested in speaking at all. And now we've got this guy coming in and going, these are the decisions I'm taking. This is why I've done it. Look, I thought he was excellent in that interview. I really did. And I said when he was appointed, not appointed, but joined, I always said I'd give him 18 months, and him spending money on fireworks or the pigs, which I loved, or whatever. I think this stuff is important, and I it's his money at the end of the day. It's his club, and I just feel that people are very quick to criticize him when he's only really been in the job for what 5 months, which
Yeah.
is no time at all. There is a lot to unpick and there is a lot to do, and I think they're slowly chipping away. I think getting the fan store back from Fanatics is a positive. I really do. I think things like running a merchandising sale with all that stuff they've got in the stock room is a fantastic idea because it brings
Yeah,
the
the
money back
open
into
day.
the club. And it puts those physical things back in the hands of fans that wouldn't able to get them otherwise. So, there's a lot of potential there, and I just think writing him off now is ridiculous. I really do. And I know it's not just fans that have done that. I know it's media outlets and other people, around football that are kind of going after him. But I really liked that interview yesterday. I
Hmm.
did. It's been a really difficult start, but I think yeah, we contradicting myself. We were a little bit critical of the back in Noel Hunt publicly the other week and some of the kind of enthusiasm, but actually that's just him. That's just him as a person, and I think we have to accept that as fans. And we're going to get more and more of this communication. The relationship is going to build. So
Yeah.
I thought it was a really really good interview. I really did.
I liked the part where he was talking about the Mbenge, apparently
Yeah.
impending litigation or something like that. I'm not sure. Is Twitter already aflame with this? Was this already a
No,
known
I don't. I think it just died a
quantity?
death. Really, I don't know. I mean, I haven't really seen much about it, and I'd forgotten it. I just, that was done and dusted. But he clearly doesn't want us to roll over.
No, no,
He's not. He's
which
not
is
gonna.
good.
He's not gonna sit down and just take it. Like he's gonna put up a fight, and I think that's what we need.
He's a
I
kidding
think that's
Christmas morning for going to the High Court, isn't he? He loves
yeah,
it.
that's
Absolutely
his
loves
job.
it. Yeah,
That's his
that's his
job.
job. That's his
Yeah.
job. I thought one other thing. I got two other kind of bits off it, but I think the other one of them kind of goes into. It'll probably blend into the mailbag and everything. But real quick, I just wanted to mention the club budget stuff that he was talking about. And look, you can decide how much you believe him, or not. But he does mention that the budget for the club is somewhere between what the sixth and the eighth highest for the division.
Mm.
Which within, in terms of like financial rules, in terms of like how much revenue we make as a club, we know for a few years now, it has been the case that Reading has not made a lot of revenue. So we know that that is the case. We have known that that is the case for a while. So they have to try and raise money in other ways, kind of like this megastore sale, which I'm sure is a drop in the bucket. But hey, it shows that they're thinking in that kind of way. How can we raise the revenue to increase the budget? But I think, to be honest, if the club's budget was already in like the top six in the division, and that would kind of make sense to me because it's not going to be higher than Cardiff's, it's not going to be higher than Luton's, it's not going to be higher than Huddersfield's. So yeah, I would say sixth is about right if I'm thinking about it logically. I
Plymouth,
just think it.
Barnsley.
And Barnsley, yeah, I just think it kills the idea that the previous coach did not have, everything that he needed, or that he had his hands tied behind his back. I think that there are a few signings in there that have not worked out that would appear to have come from, the Hunt camp. And that would have been part of, I think, why they would have been, more hesitant to go and give any extra players if that was the case. But it does seem like whenever a player who was, needed an outlay of cash was available, that could have helped the team, that happened. So, yeah, I just don't think I've been frustrated with the idea that Hunt had, a hand tied behind his back for a while now, and I think that idea of the club's budget being at that level for the league should put that to bed, in my opinion.
And I have to respect it in terms of him coming out swinging. And there's been a lot of stuff spoken this week, and even okay, as far as say ex-legends going, Noah Hunt wasn't backed, and he didn't get this, he didn't get that. I mean, how far do you want to excuse poor performance?
Hmm.
We love Noel Hunt on this pod, and there'll be people listening to this, but he should not have remained in a job possibly for as long as he did, and certainly not beyond that Doncaster game, which he wasn't. So, I think it's good of Rob to come out and go, actually, I'm not going to sit there and have people talking this and that and all the rest of it when actually, and he factually, he brought in Marriott,
Yeah.
he re-signed Wing and Pereira, massive, massive signings. He didn't play at the weekend and have been injured for a little while. Obviously not Wing. O'Connor, fantastic player. Burns probably should be better than he is, in terms of the performances we've seen. Williams, fantastic player. So this stuff about he wasn't given all the tools and disadvantages, you said, with one hand behind his back. I think it's just excuses really, and
Yeah.
I'm all for protecting your mates and sticking up for them, but you have to come out with the facts, and the amount of players that we signed does not show a lack of ambition based on the current pool that we're currently swimming in.
I think I agree with you too that like the last thing I'll say about this interview and Liam's first interview and all of this is that, and it kind of ties to what you're saying about leaving things too long almost with Hunt. But I think that standards is something that they mentioned
Yeah,
in both their interviews, and Rob said, we kind of came to the club and allowed them to continue doing what they had been doing for the last couple years because on the pitch, that had been working, but and we didn't kind of input immediately all of our sort of standards for how we should behave professionally, and things like that. And I think that you could kind of see that with kind of what Liam was talking about too, and where he talked about standards and he talked about fitness a lot and like how kind of unfit the players are, match fitness wise, which is, part of the reason they're getting injured more this season, I would say. And that comes from the top down, that comes from the manager down, instilling those standards, in your organization. And I think that the club on the field as well was starting to tick off in terms of performance late in the season last year. And that was partially because those declining standards that was already happening in the back half of last season. So yeah, that's kind of I think that Couhig is now decided that he's going to have things and have a manager who understands at least that there is a certain level of professionalism that he wants from his team, and I think that's been missing a little bit. I've been talking about it's coaching errors, like things like that. Well, if it's coaching errors for 9 months in a row, it's a little bit of professionalism error
yeah.
for me.
It's
So yeah,
the other argument is that they're not they're not fit. Um, I don't know how you judge fitness. I really don't. They apart from the eye and the kind of the overall amount of injuries that we do have. But we've seemed to have had that for years and years and years.
I think Noel was what you would call a player's coach. And that happened with the New England Patriots too last year, whereby they had a player's coach who was, again, well liked by the players. And by all accounts, Noel was well liked by the players. But sometimes that level of comfort that is afforded to them isn't that helpful when you're in a competitive environment and you're going out, to win points at the end of the day.
Mhm.
And I think that standards had been allowed to slip, because partially because of that. And look, we know that Sellers had players that he would put his arm around too. Femi Aziz is a great example of that. Tyler Binden is a great example of that. But he was also occasionally quite cold with players, when he felt that he wasn't getting what he needed to. And I think that
Yeah,
ruthlessness has been missing from Reading in the last
100%.
3 months, 4 months. So,
They've got to be held to
yeah,
account. They really have.
yeah.
And hopefully Liam can do that. Let's do the mailbag because it's positively bulging this week. Absolutely massive mailbag. So we're going to do that after this very short break. Right, I'm just looking. There's quite a few in here, Ross.
All right, all
Um,
right.
we, I haven't checked Blue Sky. Have you checked Blue Sky?
I haven't. I've got one email which I can start with while you pull up the others if you like. Are
Yeah,
you
go on.
ready? Yeah, all right. So I've
Yeah,
got
do that
one
first.
from Jamie Pontin in Australia mail. That's fun. I didn't know you could have
Sick.
Australia mail. That's fun.
Love that.
Yeah.
Whereabouts? Does it say whereabouts? Australia?
Brisbane, Australia. So
That's quite. I love. It always blows my mind that
yeah.
people, like when I was doing the Royals TV and stuff, and you reminded me it was for an international audience. But all these people, I'm in New Zealand, I'm
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Israel, I'm in, I don't know, someone else like Tenerife or whatever. Like I was like, this is pretty big actually.
Club is
I don't know.
massive,
It's just
mate.
weird, isn't it?
Yeah,
Just
club
weird.
is massive.
Like
World
my
game.
voice goes to places I've never been physically.
Correct. Yeah. Wow. That's a try not to think about how you're aging on the internet too. Anyway, honestly, you guys, when are we signing Regan Linney? Or Regan Linney, he's the guy who scored the hat trick in 5 minutes for Carlisle, the weekend. And he says, what was with the crowd watching the highlights? It seems there were more Carlisle fans there than ours. Love your work as usual. Cheers from Brisbane. I mean, the crowd for an FA Cup game at home, and you said you
Hmm.
paid 17 quid for that ticket?
But well, yeah, 17 for me, and then £3 for my son who's under 13.
Okay, okay. Yeah. I mean, like, it's the FA
Is
Cup.
20 quid a lot? I don't know.
I think
It
it's
just
probably a bit much for a non-league team because I think that there's like this expectation among English fans that like an FA Cup game will be cheaper, which makes sense. Like it's a family
yeah,
thing.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, it was the end of half term here, so it might be that people have just gassed out on money and were like, no, I can't do that as well. It might be that people just weren't interested. I mean, three and a bit thousand, was it three and a half or just under four? It's not great. It's not
Yeah,
great at all.
could be
3 o'clock
better.
kickoff on a Saturday. Fair play to Carlisle. Like
They made
they
some
brought
noise.
down
They were
five,
good.
600, I think, and that's great for them. And they did make some noise, and they were, I know I've been impressed a little bit with Robbie Savage and stuff that's gone on there, but they definitely backed their team. And they were very vocal and they got what they deserved in terms of the win, the
I
personally
don't
over the
think
last
so
10
either.
years.
I don't think they got what they deserve. I think Reading
Well,
should have won that four or
any
five.
team that scores 3 goals in that level of time, I mean, I just think fair play. Good luck to him.
Yeah, that's fair. They have
Yeah,
one guy who can
I suppose
score.
on the balance of the game, they probably didn't deserve it. But yeah, the
Reading should
crowd
have
was
won that
just
four or five. Sorry.
the crowd.
Anyway, go
The
ahead. Go
crowd, the
ahead.
crowd is yeah, it's just what it was. I think there is a lot of. I mean, Sim did it in his article beautifully in the week about this kind of apathy and this still awaiting this hard reset. I mean, people are fed up of being in League One. People are fed up of mediocre football. It's expensive. Like it's not been enjoyable. It's been pretty traumatic over the last few years in terms of what's been going on. So I don't know. Maybe
I
people
mean,
just thought
they're
17 quid was
in
too much.
19th, 20th place, right? It's football.
Yeah.
Like as if they start winning games, they'll pick up more. We've never been a club like even when we were like in our glorious, we've never been a club that, like, even when we've been doing poorly, have been able to fill our stadium. Look, I'm a Reading fan. I love the club, but like, that wasn't the first time I've heard, "Is this a library chance at the Select Car
Yeah,
Leasing?" Like, it
yeah.
happens. So like, I don't know, and also just like the last thing I'd say about that is like, think about the context of of where that came in the season for different fans. Carlisle have already had a couple qualifying rounds to get there, and that's them playing against a team, two divisions up. I know Carlisle are a bit abnormal
Mm.
for a non-league team right now, but still, like, whereas for us, it's a few days after the manager had been switched, and you might have hoped to see a better result because of that. But like, it's an FA Cup game against a non-league team in a season that has very much become about sorting out the mess in the league, basically. So, yeah, I'm not too worried about it. And by the way, I don't think Carlisle should have come close to winning that game. I think they had one very, very lucky goal caused by somebody who I'm not digging out in the wall deciding that balls are scary and that they should, shy away from them. And then, yeah, no, we should have won this game. Kelvin also missed two chances right after we scored our first goal too. So anyway, have you got the other questions ready?
I got loads here. Sam Richards. I saw you. I'm pretty sure I saw you from afar on Saturday, Sam. I think it was you.
Sounds like
Anyway,
an ode. Sounds like the
it
start of a
does a bit,
sonnet.
doesn't it? Yeah, it
Yeah.
does. That sounds a bit weird. Sounds a bit creepy. I don't mean it like that, Sam. What I mean is, I'm pretty sure I saw you from afar.
I'm pretty,
You were
Sam, I'm
doing
looking
something.
at you right now. Right. If you feel the air down the back of your neck start to chill.
Feel the heat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ross's tactical analysis seeping into your bones.
Right.
There's currently a lot of discussion about the quality of the squad. If you both had the opportunity to completely rebuild the first team today, which players would you feel strongly about keeping? I love the positivity in that.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. I like Paddy Lane. I'm fine with Paddy Lane. I
Oh,
like what
shut
I've
up.
seen out
What?
of
What?
him.
He'd be first on your list, would he?
To keep. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, would
yeah.
he?
Out of the guys that have come in this year, probably. I mean, Porty O'Connor, probably, but.
I don't think he said. I don't think he's talking about the new players. I think he's just
Oh,
saying
wow. The
generally.
guys.
Des Williams, first in the list.
Wait, so I'm sorry. Are
Pereira.
we talking about the guys that we wanted to stay from last season, or are we talking
He
about?
just says if you both had the opportunity to completely rebuild the first team today,
Oh,
which
okay.
players would you feel strongly about keeping?
Okay. Well, look, I like Jack Marriott, and he has been the most successful of the new signings so far. I don't think that I think that it's really funny. I came to this opinion yesterday, and I realized how negative it sounded. Do you agree? I think we've seen the best of Jack Marriott in a Reading shirt already. I don't think it's going to get better. I it's going to regress to the
Well,
mean. He scored
consistency
six
wise,
goals
it's
from,
unlikely.
yeah,
Yeah.
like he scored 6 goals from 2 XG, like, and he is a decent striker, so he can occasionally outscore. He's done it before, but like, yeah, I was like looking at that. I was like, okay, Jack Marritt's probably like a decent League One striker, right? Like he's going to get you 15 to 25 goals a season. I would say that's a great return for a League One striker. That's fine. So look, you'd probably say Jack Marriott. I really like Lane and what he can offer you, and I was quite impressed by the different places that he was happy to move into on the field on Saturday, and the fact that you can use him on both sides of the field is pretty useful. Porty O'Connor is the kind of defender that you can build a defense around because he is a physical rock. And there have been
Yeah.
issues with his game since he came back. But in the air, he is just completely dominant. If the ball goes near him in the air, Reading are coming out with that ball. So I mean, he's a pretty useful player, I'd say.
I'd go five aside. I'd go Pereira. I'd go Des Williams. I'd go Charlie Savage, no surprise, and Kamari Doyle.
Doyle looks really. I'm getting quite excited about Kamari Doyle.
And then obviously Marriott
Yeah,
up top. That's my five. And
yeah.
people would go, oh, yeah, what about Lewis Wing? But
We're getting worried about Lewis Wing's legs as much as anything, I think. So but anyway, I mean, like,
yeah,
look, still great player, still great
yeah.
player. So anyway,
Good question, that Sam. Like that a lot. Rather than saying who'd you get rid of, I like the flip. It's positive. It's nice.
yeah, yeah.
Lee Griffin, what formation do you see Liam? I keep thinking LR. Who's LR? I was getting used to it.
LR, yeah.
Liam playing as think he will be different to Noel, maybe push Wing further up the field, Also, how do you see Long Kelvin's future? Thank you for calling him Long Kelvin.
It's
Means a
important.
lot.
Phil said it without thinking on comms the other day when he was talking to Neville, and I was very happy. Yeah, I was
We're
like,
massive.
excellent,
We're literally
excellent. Yeah.
massive. Um,
I do
how do you
like
see
chatting
Long
to them.
Kelvin's future as he's not the starting nine, and despite being better on the left, Dan Kay is potentially a better fit. Not sold on Dan Kay, so don't agree with that.
See, I'm more sold
Um,
on Dan Kay than you are, but we'll go
you
from
are,
there.
yeah.
Yeah, do you know
Look,
that Daniel Kay has is like I think he's third in the team for expected assists or something like that. Like he's one of
did
the
you?
highest chance creators on the team.
Was it you or was it Sim? I lose track because there's so much nonsense spouted over a course of a weekend.
Yeah.
Someone said that Chilwell is in his Mbenge first season, and
Sim's the
it
one
was
who's
Sim,
saying that. Yeah.
and I thought, fair play,
Yeah,
fair play.
I think that is correct. I think that Chirwa is a solid player, personally. And you know, he's produced, I'm just looking at it now. I mean, Wing and Savage as per Wing and Savage as per usual are your main creators in the team. That's just how it's been with Reading for the last 18 months, basically. But in terms of expected assists, Daniel Chirwa is third. I think he brings like Lane often, I don't know. Like I think he's just a bit more willing to take his man on than Lane. And Lane's, I guess, a bit more useful in that half space anyway. Anyway, I like Daniel Kay. I'll just keep,
I
you know,
don't dislike him. I just, yeah.
I'm just gonna keep talking up. Keep talking him up. That's all. I'm gonna
I mean,
keep.
in terms of Long Calvin, this is a short one. I'll close this one off. Don't you dare say a word on this, Ross. I think we should play two up top. And I think the problem with Calvin is he's struggling because he doesn't really know where his best position is. And if he does, people are still experimenting with him as a player. I would really like to see two up top.
Yeah.
I'd like to see him and Marriott. You know, as Ross said earlier on for Carlisle, Doyle was basically pushed up, right behind him, if not alongside him at times. So I would always like to see two people up top, personally.
I think he's going to end up on the bench for a lot of this season. I think that
I would
Marriott
agree.
and Doyle will end up as the starting two. So if you're thinking about the formation, oh, actually, real quick for you, Ben, chances created per 90. Obviously, Savage and Wing again, number one and number two. Savage is number one, by the way. Which again, if you're talking about,
Shock.
yeah, but no, but like literally though, like if you're thinking about like the Lewis Wing problem, often like go and look at things that Savage has overtaken Wing in this year, and a lot of the like extra things on top of the basics. Savage is actually
Yeah.
starting to creep ahead now. Anyway,
Good, because he's a
chances
quality player.
created. Who do you think is third for chances created per 90?
What, across the season so far?
Yeah, for Reading. You've already mentioned him very recently. We were just talking about him.
Dan Kay.
Yeah, no, sorry. Denke is fifth. Kamari Doyle is third.
I was third.
Yeah,
Where's
for
Paddy Lane? Is he
chances
fourth?
created. Paddy Lane is sixth on that
Who's
list.
fourth then?
Fourth is Kelvin Abrafa, who I have been
Shut
fine.
up.
Yeah, I've been fine with Kelvin Abrafa as well. I'm just saying.
He's
Anyway,
fourth.
yeah, for chances created per 90. He drifts into that high spot. So anyway, all of
Again, I
that
don't
to
have a problem
say,
with Calvin. I like him as a player.
I
But
think I think you're going to see Kelvin Ehi on the bench quite a bit,
yeah,
especially in the
I'd
second
agree.
half of this year. I think you're going to see what looks on the lineup like a 4-2-3-1. But as I was saying in the start, the thing that you're going to get with this Liam team clearly is a bunch of different shapes depending on where we are. And oftentimes the formation was just a bit too static under Null. And immediately, I mean, again, we're playing Carlisle, so we need to do this against better opposition. But you saw Doyle able to roam much more effectively all over the midfield in Carlisle's half. And yeah, I'm excited about the way in which they're going to use him. I think, like I said, keep your eyes on Kamari Doyle and keep your eyes on one of the fullbacks. It looks like it's going to be Matty Jacob, but those two players will kind of tell you what shape Reading are in at any point.
I I feel like this next question, you could probably do a video on this. We can answer it, or you can just go, I'm going to take it and run with it. I'm not trying to make you do more
Yeah.
stuff, but I think this would be a good one.
Okay.
So, John Pryor, in the short term, what do you believe are the top three issues on the field for Liam to address? That's a
Okay.
video, isn't it?
That is a video. That's a good one. That is a
Number
really good
one,
one.
stop being crap.
Stop being crap. Try being good.
Yeah.
consider being better.
Put
Those are
it
the
in the goal hole.
put, yeah, put it in the goal hole.
I
Yeah,
think that's a video for you, 100%.
I know. Yeah, it might be. It might be. Yeah, that's a really good question. That's a really good question.
I mean, one of them has to be get up the pitch quicker. Has to be.
Yeah, yeah.
Transitions, they've got to move the ball quicker. As I said, like they've got to crush the box a lot quicker than they have been doing. And you
So
can't
I
just have
would say,
one player like hovering. You've got to have people, piling in when we're in possession.
so you're correct, right? But we've been saying we don't want to be reactive. We don't want to be a reactive team, especially at home. Like
Too late.
we don't want to be counter-attacking against Doncaster at home, right? We don't want that to be our
No,
plan
true.
moving forward. So I think that like you're not wrong about like in terms of like creating transitions, in terms of like creating fast plays to hit the opposition, and try and like create space and get them when they're having to do some emergency defending. But I think it's going to be a case for Liam of can we artificially create those scenarios? Like, can we, as we were doing really, really well with Kamara Doyle in this game, can we overload one side to then hit the weak side with
Yeah,
Doyle
yeah,
like
overlaps as
quickly?
well.
Like things where we want to like,
Outstrip them.
yeah, yeah. So.
I think that's a video for you, 100%.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't want to give away too much. I have a few thoughts, but I'd be quite interested to see, yeah, where to go with
No.
that.
Sam White, our midfield is so easy to play through. How do we sacrifice to make it work? In my opinion, a midfielder is one of the key positions I think we need to strengthen in January, along with left back and striker. Um, well, the problem we got a load of midfielders that just never fit. Who
Yeah,
we got out? We got Richie, we got Ben Elliott, someone else. Kamara's beat. I mean, Kamara. I don't know if you can class him
Liam
as that, but
Fraser's out as
Liam
well
Fraser
for a little
completely
while.
dropped off the face of the earth. Liam
Yeah, I'm
Fraser,
not sure
like,
where Rashish is. Rashisha still in the on the bench or whatever? I'm not really
look,
sure.
the key thing is making it stick, right?
Yeah.
So, what can we do for those players to be able to 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 make it click?
Yeah, sorry. Remind me which players it was. I was looking at something. I was doing research.
He said, in my opinion, a midfielder is one of the key positions I think we need to strengthen in
Oh,
Jan.
yeah, would I strengthen
A
that? Yeah,
left back and a
yeah.
striker. 100% a striker. A striker's top of that list.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
is.
yeah,
It has to be.
probably. I don't know if it has to be because I think that like the club again rates Kelvin higher than we do, Long Kelvin, and I think that the club thinks that Marriott and Kelvin Ehibachiman, especially if you're moving Doyle into that top
Noel
spot.
did though. I don't know if Liam will.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, that's a good point. Some sort of, I think Kelvin's got a very interesting 2 months coming up, by the way. I think
Yes,
November
this
and
is make or break.
December,
I think it's make or
yeah,
break.
he's got to kick on because now he has a new manager again, that comfort, is really gone. I agree that the midfield is quite easy to play through, and you're just asking about like three things Liam needs to fix. I think Reading are lacking legs in the midfield right now. And occasionally, like, we're just getting to balls. There are a lot of times when I see Wing just getting to a ball to move it back into the center backs and things like that. And again, like, I really like Lewis Wing. I want him on the pitch. Every single time I talk about a Lewis Wing problem, I have to just remind myself and everyone, but that I wouldn't take him out of the starting lineup ever. Like, there's no scenario in which I would take Lewis Wing out of the starting lineup because of the upside of him is just too high. But I do think that part of the reason why the midfield is quite easy to play through right now is because Wing's preference as a defensive midfielder is to sort of step in, make an interception, like step up, be aggressive and proactive, and then kind of hit the defense, as they were trying to get set up to do their own attack. And sometimes that means that he then has to turn and run back towards his own net. And I think you can kind of see physically he's pretty slow in that scenario. And there's a lot of young, fast, physical guys in League One who are going to run past faster guys than Lewis Wing. So I do think that we have a little bit of a legs issue in midfield. I think it kind of reminds me a little bit of the issue that Manchester United had for a long time with Fernandez and Casemiro in the middle, and there's just no legs in
Yeah.
that midfield too. And Savage obviously is an all energy player, so I think papers a lot of Wing's cracks. But I have noticed, in my opinion, Savage having to come over to the other side of the pitch more often in 25, 26 so far. I think Savage
It's
has,
detrimental. It's detrimental for
for sure. I think Savage had an underrated good season
yeah.
because I think he is papering over some of Wing's
The,
off the
the
ball
thing that
cracks.
the thing he hasn't done is score goals.
Correct, because I think that he's having to do more defensive work because of Lewis Swing. Like if we looked at this time last season, I think we would have seen like a very steady like goals and assists between the two of those players. Whereas this year it's 3 goals and 3 assists for Wing and just 1 assist for Charlie is goal involvements. And I think that
Mm.
is because Charlie is having to do more defensive work to cover for Wing personally.
I mean, this leads quite nicely on to the next question. So Lewis Willard says, we will see. So, sorry, I'm misreading this. After the rumor on X regarding if we will see some players being left out of the squad in the next few weeks, who do we think LR will leave out?
Oh,
Um,
that's tough.
Michael Stickland.
Yeah,
Um, I think he, like we said, we had a serious conversation about Long Kelvin. I think in an ideal world he'd leave out Jack Stevens, but that's not going to happen unless he really wants to bury him and chuck in a youth keeper, which he could
yeah.
do.
I mean, are these
Um,
just rumors or are they
no, well,
substantiated
this is
anyway?
my opinion based
Oh,
on
okay. Yeah, yeah,
what I think he would have seen already.
yeah.
Um, I think you have to look at Matty Jacob, to be honest. I mean, yeah, overall in the game, like you said, he had some good spells, but
I
it
think
wasn't the,
I
was it?
think given what it looks clear that Liam wants to do, I think Jacob will be staying in the squad at least. I mean, like Garcia will have a field day with this setup, especially if he is basically allowed to just be a winger
Yeah,
for the vast majority of the time. So
Kamara. I don't think he will be sold on Kamara. He gave the ball away far too cheaply on Saturday when he
yeah,
did come on.
I would be looking at guys who came on as subs in that particular game, and I think that what will have frustrated Liam more than anything was the kind of inability to operate the attack that we wanted to use, or that he wanted to use in that extra time. It's tough once you're in extra time and you're tired and all these kinds of things, but you get to send 5 subs on now, so like those subs should be able to convey a tactical
Effect.
message as well, yeah, and affect
Yeah,
the
sure.
game. And I think to be fair, Marco Mani did. So it's worth saying that. Like we scored our second goal after some of those subs were made. So they did help in that regard. But yeah, I think there would be, again, he's talking about standards and he's talking about fitness. When he brings up the issues he has with the squad right now. Yeah, that might be somewhere that he's looking. But I don't know. I feel that like mostly it's just like everywhere the standards in the squad need to improve.
Tom Sheeran, he's on a streak. This lad, it must have been every week for the last 5 or 6 weeks that he's given a question. So you've got to love
Prolific.
the dedication. Number one fan. Number one
Yeah.
fan.
Thank
The
you.
only way is up, lads. I do trust Rob will do the right thing by Liam. I understand why he didn't have the same confidence in Noel. We really need to push on to mid-table now, then reassess in January. How do you think LR will change the current style? Top work as always. And he's put a blue heart as an emoji.
Well, that's nice. That's very
Nice.
nice. I think we've talked about how Liam's gonna change things. I think if it's a continuation of what we saw against Carlisle, then it's gonna be the ability to move into different shapes and different phases of play, and we'll see how that works. But it's a style that I think will allow, a relatively young squad to, yeah, to have some success.
Alistair, how would you go about changing the mentality of this team? Every time something goes against them, there's no belief that they can get back in the game. I'd literally sit them down and I'd get them to watch Moneyball
Right.
and the
Okay.
film Gridiron Gang, starring
Yeah.
Dwayne the Rock
I
Johnson.
saw you're reading How to Win the Premier League, which is
Cracking book.
basically cracking book, basically Moneyball for the Premier League, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
correct.
you're enjoying it.
Yeah, I like the idea of data driven and players being underrated and undervalued because of statistics. And yeah, like I like all that Moneyball stuff. I mean, Moneyball's the greatest film ever made.
Yeah,
Obviously, it's a great book as well, but the film is outstanding. Yeah,
data
I would
collection
literally
and
just sit them down and go,
yeah,
stop being idiots
right.
and be more like the Rocky and Gridiron Gang.
So if you watched, that's a good reference. Tavonga Rashisha's YouTube video today, you will have seen that Paddy Lane is year 8 table tennis champion at his school. So what we all need to do, you all need
What,
to,
he's still year eight, so because that'd be a bit weird.
well, that'd be a bit odd when he's gone back every year to defend his title
Yeah,
against the
defend it.
year 8s.
The man who never grew up.
Yeah. But in any case, we all need to channel that championship energy that Paddy had, as a year eight child to start running our way up the table. So hey, Rob is
They,
Bolshy, so let's be Bolshy with him.
they got to do it for themselves as well. Like a lot of them, it feels like it's a graveyard for players. That's not right, but it just feels like an acceptance of that's where they're going to be. And I don't know, like it's just be good to just show some ambition on a pitch. To really like just be confident in what they can do. There isn't a lot of confidence in that team at the moment, and yeah, results have been iffy. That's why we're in 19th or whatever in a league, but they're good players. Like I still
Hmm.
stand by that. They are good players
Yeah.
who can change the course of a game. They just got to get it together. They just got to put
I
themselves together.
I think if you're going to take one piece of very obvious encouragement from this game, you should take encouragement from how easy it was for Reading to score a second goal. And they haven't done that. They haven't scored a second goal previously since September 20th. So I mean, just yeah, positive sparks, positive sparks.
Um, Mountain Mike, yo, my fave cod pass bros. Love that. Love
What
that.
up?
Do you think we should give Omani a go up front with Marrett still injured? Long Kelvin seems really poor positioning as a main man and looks to be struggling in that position. I think he's better as a winger. Omani has 2 goals now and might be slightly better option to lead the line. Anyways, as always, keep up the great work. Thank you, Mountain Mike. I believe that Marco Omani should start on Thursday. Yes.
Oh yes, nice. Okay, cool. I thought you were about to make a joke that like you were like, I think that Marco Mani should go to the
Tesco.
Costco. Yeah.
Yeah.
On Thursday. No, I actually agree. I actually agree as well. I think Marco Mani should start. I thought he was pretty good.
He's got nothing to lose now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's always been rock bottom. Like he's got a new manager, and just go and get it. Just go and
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, again,
smash some
like
in.
if he wants to play in the second half of the season, then I mean, he needs to impress Liam in the
Yeah.
next few weeks, right? So yeah, yeah. I think I'd play him, but again, like just take a look at that second goal again, or first goal, sorry, for Carlisle again, and decide who you think might have jumped out of the way of a big scary football. Oh, spooky season.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Wow.
Keith Satterley. That's a nice name to say. Satterley. I
Saturday.
like that.
Okay.
If LR had been given, I love all this LR stuff.
LR, yeah. LR.
What did someone call him in the chat? Limo.
Limo. That's a good one,
Limo.
actually. Oh, yeah,
Limo.
yeah. Limo's all right, yeah.
Had been given. Yeah, that's Limo. I like that.
Limo.
Maybe we'll call that's the pod title. Done. Limo.
Limo. There we go.
Limo.
All right.
Write that down. Get it down now.
Scribble that down.
Scribble it down on your notepad. If LR had been given the job in the summer, who would he have kept from the squad he has inherited, and who would have been on his list to sign? Oof, well, I don't think I can answer that, Keith. What a question that is.
Yeah,
It's
and I
like
mean,
getting
like
someone's mind.
the interview with Couhig made it sound like, other than Mbenge, like a lot of them were kind of like, all right, that's a sensible offer, like off you pop, and things like that. Whereas, yeah, with Mbenge, it's a little bit more up in the air, I guess.
I
Yeah.
think what from his point of view or from a fan's point of view, I don't think you can really. I think you'd have to look at one of Mbenge, Bindon, or Nibstan.
Yeah.
To lose all three has been tough, right? It's been really tough. And Mbenge seems to be the only one who's really gone on to. I mean, we talked about this the other week, didn't we?
I think though, to be honest, Ben, like we've talked about like the comfort level of the squad and everything, and I do think to a certain degree the squad kind of needed a clean out. Not a complete clean out, but like a little
Yeah,
bit of a
what it needs
recycling,
is
a
healthy
refreshing.
competition because
Yeah.
there's so many players in that team that are just comfortable
Yeah. Well, do you think
because the
so right
backups
now
aren't
though?
great.
Who do you think's comfortable in this current Reading team? Other than
Lewis Wing.
Lewis Wing. Wow, actually, yeah, good point. Good point. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Um,
that's against what I've been saying for the last half an hour anyway. So ignore what I just said.
who else would I say is comfortable?
Joe Pereira, whenever I feel
Jacob.
like Joe
Like,
Pereira is watching these games going,
yeah,
teammate.
that's me
Yeah,
done. I
yeah.
mean, Jacob. I don't think there's much competition or positive competition at left back at the moment.
Yeah, we'll
Because
see when
nothing's really stuck.
Garcia's fit, I guess. I think we'll see when Garcia's fit. But then again, I thought he was going to be a right winger this year. So what do I know?
Um, oh, maybe I've stitched myself up with this. Who else do I think is comfortable?
Yeah,
I
Kelvin's a
I
bit
think
comfy.
Chilwell's. I don't.
No, I
I
don't think so.
don't.
I think he's
There's
just
not much
got it.
competition there.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Liam again as a new voice will be able to shake him up, I'm kind of like I think that maybe there's even an argument that we built the squad a little bit too big in some places, but we've selected a bunch of people who seem to have middling injury records, so that means that the size of the squad has not
Yeah,
always been fully available anyway. Yeah, I think that it's good to keep evolving and keep developing as a team, and you always want to keep some like, great players around, obviously, as that sort of like continuity.
yeah,
But I think you do want to evolve and change each season as well.
yeah. There you go. That was a really big mailbag.
It was a huge mailbag.
We're gonna do a really short preview of Stevenage because I'm conscious this has gone on for nearly 3 hours. It's not 3 hours.
It's gone on for 6 hours. Don't look at your phone. Don't look at your phone.
So we're gonna do a preview right now. Welcome to the final part of episode 438 of the Tilehurst podcast with myself, Ben Thomas, and him, Ross Webber.
It's me.
Uh, well, look, by the time you listen to this, we are just over 24 hours away from hosting Stevenage on
Hours away. Hours away.
Thursday night football. It's like
Yeah.
someone went, "Do you like NFL Thursday night football?" Yeah. Well, we're going to do that with League One football. Nah, don't do
Right.
that.
Don't do that. Yeah. And also, the Thursday night football over here has a reputation for being the worst game of the week, played normally between like Jacksonville and I don't know, like the Caribbean. Yeah, it's not a night that comes with a lot of prestige,
Yeah.
Thursday, I guess. I'll say that much. But hey, we're playing on a Thursday for some reason.
Um, Alex Revel just signed a 5-year contract. It's
Very
incredible,
nice.
isn't it?
Very nice. Well, he's had a great start to the season, isn't he? It's always, it is because
God,
they talk about him every single time they bring up Stevenage, right now.
they do.
I feel like Stevenage have a good little half season run every few years. Like I feel like they do.
This has been pretty. I think this has been pretty exceptional, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but like they were, well, that's true, but they were very good under Steve Evans for a while as well, weren't they? I mean, in the season that we had Nesta back in the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean they're 2 points off the top now, and they've obviously had a really good start. They did, like I said earlier, lose to lower league opposition in the FA Cup at home in the weekend just gone. So starting to fall off a little bit, and they drawn and lost in the league in the last two. So hopefully that early season form is starting to wane a little bit for sure.
Um,
And of course, Chem
Interesting mix of,
Campbell. So
of
that's
course,
always
yeah,
something to look forward to. He's slowed down. He had a pretty good start with them, and even helped condemn Wickham to a defeat. So we'll love him for that. He's got 2 goals for them already this year, but he has slowed down. He's not starting in the last few weeks. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether he gets the start against Reading.
interesting mix of players that they've got there in terms of experience and youth as well. I mean, it's been a great season for them so far. Ross said they're 2 points off the top. They only played 12 games, won 8 of those. So it's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive for them so far. Um, I mean, rather than focusing on Stevenage as much as we've done on other clubs in recent times, there's no disrespect to Stevenage. This is really. I think this is really the start of Liam's reign in terms of how he wants the team to play. We don't know at this point, recording this on a Tuesday evening, who will be back in time for that. It feels like a quick turnaround from the Saturday to the Thursday, which I guess it is. Can Reading afford to lose this game?
I mean, like, again, it comes with the performances, doesn't it? Because, like, you want the team to be looking like they're moving in the right direction. But I mean, like, you would need to see a pretty monumental performance to exclude a loss by anything more than 1 goal. No, I think that Reading, need to go and show that they are better than what they've been producing so far this season. And I think that based on what we saw against Carlisle, you're going to see something different. And again, I'm not it sucks to lose. It sucks to lose at home to non-league opposition. With the frequency and consistency with which it happens all over the
Mm.
league, I'm just not that worried about it. And I do think that Reading should have won that game comfortably against Carlisle. If they attack in the way that they did, they continue to improve in the way that they attack against Stevenage, then I think that they should get some joy. But it's worth saying that Stevenage have one of the best defenses in the league, so it's going to be really interesting to see how it works against them. But I think like overall they're just a team where everyone knows their roles. They're in the habit of winning. And I don't think that they're the highest quality team or anything like that. And Reading still have a very quality squad. If we can make it sing, then yeah, we can produce moments, like the wing opener in this game again, in the previous game against Carlisle, which had nothing to do with setup of the team or anything like that. It just has to do with the quality of the players. So yeah, I think that there's no reason we can't go out and get a reasonable result in this game. I think we'd be looking to win and start the Liam League reign, on a positive note.
Would have to be a very large goals for result for Reading, but they could feasibly end up in 11th place by the close of play on Thursday.
How large of a result are we talking here?
They'd have to win 5-0.
5-0. Okay, it's doable. It's definitely doable. I'm in, again, non-league opposition. I totally get it. But I am encouraged by the ease with which Reading scored a second goal.
Have to keep doing that.
And that's what they have to keep doing. Yeah, I think that's something that I'm going to want to see from the team. If I think about, if I think about it, is a bit more consistency. A bit more consistency throughout the entire 90 minutes. The last 30 minutes needs to be maybe not as energetic as the first 60, but it at least needs to be managed in the correct way.
For context, we've drawn 6 games this season. Only Bradford matched that, and they're in second place because they've won 7 games. We've won 3.
Yeah.
Tells you where the problem is. They're not able to either hold on to a lead or capitalize on a lead. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a big game. I think it's a big game for a lot of players. I think it's a good opportunity to kick on. The lowest we'd end up if we won would be 13th, which, given our current position of 20th, snap your hand off for that at the moment.
Yeah.
And that would give us a base. 18 points would see us looking up rather than down. There is a gap developing, I have to say, between the teams in and around the playoffs and the teams that are not. Example being that Huddersfield are 9th with 19. Mansfield 8th with 22, and then 23 Bolton, 25 Wimbledon, 25 Lincoln, and then 26 our visitors Stevenage. So there is a developing gap there already. Sort of eight or 9 teams just starting to pull away a little bit. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But look, I think it's probably a good thing this game's coming around quick because we can put to bed what happened on Saturday, and we can go from there.
It's going to be good. Don't worry. It's going to be good.
Yeah, I think.
Here's your prediction. 5-0, 11th place. Prediction done.
Playoffs, here we come.
Second place. I'm licking my lips. There's only how many points between us and that man? There's 12. It's only 12. That's the thing. It's only 12, mate.
12. Only 4 wins and
get on the Leamo party bus.
The Leamo party bus, yeah, exactly. It's a new start. It's a new era. We kind of scrub Saturday from our minds now, and we move on. Thank you very much for joining us on this bumper pod. We didn't think we'd have a lot to talk about, but you guys just keep us chatting with all your comments and your questions and your things. So we really appreciate that. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate your support during what has been a tricky season again. One day we'll post this pod and it will be glory days for weeks and weeks and weeks. But we're not at that point just yet. We're going to keep the faith. We're on the Leamo party bus. I'm sure you are as well. Ross, have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thank you. You as well. Stay warm.
We'll be back earlier. Won't we? Because we play on Thursday. Should we just do one on Friday night? Just kick it down the road.
Well, hang on a minute. I got practice on Friday night. Yeah.
But yeah, we'll be back sooner because we've obviously got the Thursday game to review. Have a good thing, whatever you're doing. Have a good firework night. Be safe. Be seen. Don't chuck fireworks. And
definitely don't blow up the Houses of Parliament, though. Don't do that. That would be bad.
That's a bad thing to do.
Yeah.
Come on, you guys.